The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Federation hummed with the low-frequency vibrations of 100 different languages. The massive domed chamber, suspended in orbit around the gas giant Xenthar, glittered with the regalia of dozens of species. Phosphorians pulsed with soft bioluminescence as they floated in their anti-grav harnesses. Vespidian delegates clicked their mandibles in conversation, their chitinous exoskeletons polished to a mirror shine. Towering Arcturans stood motionless, their forearms crossed in silent judgment, bioluminescent stripes shifting through calm blues and greens. Ambassador Elias Carter adjusted his tie, the only human in a sea of alien superiority. His simple black suit stood out like a shadow against the vibrant silks, crystalline armor, and flowing energy fields of the Federation's elite. The air smelled faintly of ozone and something sweet, probably the pheromones of the Malari delegates. He ignored the sideways glances, the subtle shifts in posture, as species moved away from him. 3 years of this, 3 years of petitions, of negotiations, of being treated like a child begging for a seat at the adults' table. The central hologram flickered to life, displaying the sigil of the Federation High Council, Grand Marshal Vexilor, an Arcturan whose stripes now burned a deep, authoritative gold, stepped forward. His voice boomed through the chamber, translated instantly by the universal comm systems. The petition for full membership by the Terran Systems Alliance is hereby denied. No surprise there. Elias kept his face neutral, though his fingers tightened around the edge of his podium. Upon review, Vexilor continued, the Council finds humanity lacks the strategic value necessary for full membership status. Your species remains classified as a protectorate civilization, under Federation guidance until such time as you meet the requisite technological and military thresholds. A ripple of amusement passed through the chamber. Elias caught the way the Vespidian delegation's exoskeletons shimmered with mirth, their colors shifting to bright, mocking greens. One of them, a high-ranking diplomat with scarred mandibles, leaned toward him. "Tell me, Ambassador," the Vespidian hissed, his voice dripping with condescension, "how goes your fleet modernization, still using chemical propulsion?" Laughter echoed, clicks, hums, and harmonic vibrations from a dozen different throats. Elias exhaled slowly. "We've made progress," he said, keeping his voice level. "Progress." The Vespidian's antennae twitched. "Your fastest ships still take weeks to cross a single system. The Federation's dreadnoughts traverse light years in hours. What could your species possibly offer us?" Elias met the alien's multifaceted eyes. Ingenuity, adaptability, the same traits that took us from steam engines to spaceflight in less than 2 centuries. A snort from one of the Arcturans. "Primitive," rumbled the massive alien. "Your weapons are toys. Your shields are paper. The Vorak hive could wipe your species out in a single campaign." The holograms shifted, displaying a by-side comparison, Earth's bulky, outdated warships next to the sleek, gravity-defying behemoths of the Federation. The difference was laughable. One of the Phosphorians pulsed a soft pink, their version of a pitying sigh. "Perhaps in another century," Vexilor said, not unkindly, "your people will be ready. For now, the Council's decision is final." Elias didn't move. He could feel the weight of every gaze in the chamber, the unspoken consensus. "You don't belong here." Then quietly he reached into his jacket. The movement was small, but in a room full of paranoid diplomats, it drew immediate attention. 4 Arcturan guards shifted, their stripes flashing warning red. Elias ignored them, pulling out a small data chip. "Before we conclude," he said, "I'd like to submit one final piece of evidence for the record." Vexilor's stripes darkened. "Ambassador, this is highly irregular." Elias slotted the chip into the podium's interface. The holograms flickered, then resolved into a new image, a star map. But not just any map. This one showed a series of blinking red markers deep in uncharted space. "What is this?" demanded the Vespidian. "Locations," Elias said, "of Vorak hive breeding worlds." Silence. The chamber froze. Even the Phosphorians stopped pulsing. The Vorak were the Federation's boogeyman, a ravenous swarm that had devoured a dozen systems before being pushed back at great cost. Their nests were hidden, their locations a closely guarded secret. Elias continued, voice calm. We found them, not your scouts, not your long-range probes, us with telescopes and algorithms, and a handful of stolen Vorak transmission logs. He tapped the display, zooming in on one of the markers. This one, it is less than 3 light years from Federation space, and it is active. Vexler's stripes burned crimson. How did you dismissed us, Elias said, cutting him off. Called us weak, said we had nothing to offer. He straightened, meeting the Grand Marshal's gaze. But while you were laughing at our ships, we were learning your enemies while you called us primitive. We were mapping the dark between the stars. The Vespidian hissed. This changes nothing. Your species is still outmatched. Elias smiled. It wasn't a friendly expression. Maybe, but we're not asking for your protection anymore. He reached down, tapping a final command into the podium. The star map vanished, replaced by a single line of text, broadcast to every screen in the chamber. Transmission received, USN Prometheus, test successful. Elias turned and walked out. Behind him, the chamber erupted into chaos. The Antarctic wind howled like a dying beast, clawing at the reinforced domes of the research facility, buried beneath 2 miles of ice. Inside, Dr. Lisa Hayes wiped sweat from her forehead with the back of her glove, leaving a smudge of grease across her brow. The thermal suit clung to her like a second skin, its cooling systems struggling against the heat pouring off the humming reactor core before her. Status check, she called out, her voice barely audible over the thrum of machinery. A younger scientist, Park, scrambled up the gantry ladder, his tablet flashing with erratic readouts. Core containment at Fay and holding, but the harmonic stabilizers are fluctuating like crazy. If we push it any further, we push it, Lisa interrupted. Her fingers danced across the control panel, entering the final authorization codes. The screen blinked red. Warning, quantum singularity protocol engaged. Across the cavernous chamber, a dozen engineers froze. The massive test ship, the USN Prometheus, sat cradled in its magnetic restraints, its black hull gleaming under the harsh blue work lights. It looked nothing like the Federation's sleek warships. Bulky, angular, human. Doctor, Park whispered, this violates 7 fundamental laws of physics. Lisa grinned, her teeth flashing in the reactor's glow. Good. She slammed her palm onto the activation switch. The world tore apart. Light bent in ways that shouldn't exist. The Prometheus shimmered, its outline blurring as the very air around it fractured into jagged, impossible geometries. A sound like the universe screaming filled the chamber. Then, silence. The ship was gone. Where the hell did it? Park began, but the proximity alarms cut him off. A new alert flashed on every screen. Object detected. Distance, 5 kilometers. Bearing, solar orbit. The main display flickered to life, showing the Prometheus floating serenely against the blackness of space. Earth a blue marble in the distance. Its hull bore fresh scorch marks, but the telemetry data streaming in was clear, intact, operational. Lisa's knees buckled. She caught herself on the console, laughing breathlessly. We just punched a hole through reality. A technician vomited into a waste bin. Another was crying. Park stared at the screen, his voice hollow. The Federation said warp drives needed exotic matter. That folding space required energy outputs beyond any civilization's reach. Lisa tapped the comms link. Prometheus, this is control. Report status. Static crackled. Then the ship's captain came through, his voice giddy with disbelief. Control. We didn't move. 1 second, we were there. The next, here, no acceleration, no transition. It was like the universe just skipped. Lisa turned to her team. Their faces mirrored the same stunned realization. The quantum singularity drive didn't bend space. It ignored it. Park swallowed hard. The Federation's entire military doctrine is based on warp lanes, on choke points, on predictable travel times between nowhere and nowhere. Lisa finished. She brought up the schematics, her fingers flying, because that is all their physics allowed. But this, she gestured to the Prometheus on the screen. This isn't warp. This is teleportation. A heavy silence settled over the room. The implications hung in the air, thicker than the ozone from the overloaded reactors. Lisa exhaled slowly, her breath fogging in the suddenly frigid air. They think we're primitive, that we're still burning chemical rockets. Her grin turned feral. Let them keep thinking that. Deep beneath the ice, in a facility that didn't officially exist, humanity's first true warship blinked back into existence, exactly where it had left. The test was a success. The war was just beginning. The void near Pluto was supposed to be empty. The Federation's long-range scans had confirmed it. Just ice, rock, and the occasional smuggler's vessel darting through the dark. They never thought to look deeper. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USN Defiance, his boots magnetized to the deck as he watched the holographic display. The shipyard was hidden beneath Pluto's largest moon, Charon, its surface pockmarked with docking bays and construction scaffolds. The black hulls of Earth's true fleet gleamed under artificial starlight, their angular frames bristling with weapons the Federation had never imagined. "Status report," Jake growled, his voice like gravel dragged over steel. Lieutenant Chen, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface, didn't look up. "All ships report QSD cores at phase synchronization. Admiral, railguns charged, plasma lances primed." She paused, then added, "No Federation patrols within detection range." Jake allowed himself a smirk. Of course there weren't. The Federation didn't bother watching Pluto. To them, it was just another frozen rock at the edge of a backwater system. Behind him, Commander Reyes leaned against the tactical console, arms crossed. "You think they'll piss themselves when they see this?" "Hopefully," Jake said. "But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, we make sure this works outside the lab." The quantum singularity drive had been Dr. Hayes's baby, a monstrosity of human ingenuity that didn't just bend space like the Federation's warp engines. It ripped through it. No wormholes, no detectable energy signatures, just disappearance and reappearance. Instantly, Jake keyed the fleet. Wide comm. "All vessels, this is Admiral Morrison. Initiate jump sequence on my mark." A chorus of confirmations echoed through the bridge speakers. The Defiance shuddered as its QSD core whined to life, the air thickening with static. The holographic display flickered, then resolved into a tactical map of the Sol system. Their target was a barren asteroid belt beyond Neptune, far enough to avoid prying eyes, close enough to confirm the drive's range. Mark. Space twisted. One heartbeat, the Defiance hung motionless above Charon. The next, silence. Absolute, perfect silence. Then the sensors screamed to life. "Jump successful," Chen barked. "All ships accounted for. Coordinates confirmed. Neptune's outer belt, zero drift." Reyes let out a low whistle. "Holy hell, we just teleported." Jake didn't celebrate. Not yet. He tapped the comm again. "Tactical, power up the railguns. Target the largest asteroid in Sector 7. The Defiance's main battery hummed, magnetic coils charging as the barrel aligned. A targeting reticule flashed red on the hologram. Fire. The railgun discharged with a soundless flash. A tungsten slug the size of a freight train tore through the void at face. The asteroid, a jagged mountain of iron and ice, exploded into vaporized debris. No recoil, no delay, just annihilation. Reyes grinned. "Think that'll get their attention." Jake didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the tactical display, where a new alert blinked. A Federation patrol frigate, drifting lazily at the edge of the belt. It hadn't seen them yet, but it would. All ships, Jake said, his voice calm. Battle stations, silent running. The bridge crew moved like ghosts, extinguishing non-essential systems, damping emissions. The Defiance and her sister ships, USN Vanguard, USN Retribution, USN Stormbreaker, hung in the dark, their black hulls drinking in the starlight. The frigate's sensors swept the area once, twice, then it turned. "They're moving," Chen whispered, "heading directly for us." Jake didn't flinch. "Let them come." The frigate inched closer, its own sensors blind to the human fleet lurking in the shadows. It passed within 50 kilometers, close enough to see the Defiance's hull with the naked eye. If it had been looking, it wasn't. "Admiral," Reyes murmured. "Orders." Jake watched the frigate drift past, oblivious. A slow smile spread across his face. "Hold position. Let them go." Chen blinked. "Sir, if we engage now, they'll know we're here and we're not ready." Jake turned away from the display. But soon, very soon, the frigate vanished into the dark, none the wiser. Behind Jake, the fleet waited. 100 ships, 1,000 guns, and a galaxy that had no idea what was coming. "Set course for Earth," Jake ordered. "We have a war to prepare for." The QSD cores flared to life again. Space twisted, and the fleet was gone. The energy shield around Zorath face shimmered like a second atmosphere, an impenetrable dome of blue light that had never been breached. The planet's defense grid was legendary, a network of orbital cannons and gravity mines that could shred any conventional fleet. For centuries, the Zorathians had boasted that their world was untouchable. Inside the command spire of Zorath Feast's capital, High Prelate Fortul watched the sensor feeds with satisfaction. His 4 eyes blinked in alternating patterns, a sign of contentment among his species. "Another quiet shift," he murmured to his adjutant. "The humans wouldn't dare test us." The adjutant, a younger Zorathian with nervous twitches in his lower limbs, hesitated. "Prelate, our deep-range scanners did detect an anomaly near the outer marker, a brief energy spike." Shiftel waved a dismissive appendage. "Probably just a comet breaking up. The humans don't even have warp drives that can reach this far. Their ships would take decades to." The air inside the command spire rippled. Alarms blared as the entire room shook. Fortul stumbled, his balanced sacs pulsing with panic. What in the void, outside the panoramic viewports? The sky split. The USN Defiance materialized directly above the capital city, its black hull blotting out the sun. It hadn't approached from beyond the shield. It hadn't triggered a single warning. One moment, there was empty sky. The next, a kilometer-long warship hovering low enough to cast shadows across the gleaming spires. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Jake Morrison leaned back in his command chair, his scarred face lit by the glow of tactical displays. "Well," he said, voice rough with amusement, "that worked better than expected." Lieutenant Chen, his weapons officer, let out a low whistle. "Sir, their shield is still active. We're inside it." Morrison grinned. "That's the beauty of the QSD. Doesn't just go around barriers. It goes through them." He tapped a command into his console. "Open a channel. Let's say hello." In the command spire below, Siftel's communication panel lit up with a priority alert. The screen flickered, revealing the grizzled face of a human male. "Aye, Prelate," Morrison said, his tone conversational. "Admiral Jake Morrison, United Earth Stellar Navy. Lovely planet you've got here." Shiftel's bioluminescent stripes flared crimson with rage. "Human, you violate Federation law by—" Yeah, Morrison interrupted. "Save the speech. Here's how this is gonna go. You've got 30 seconds to lower your planetary defenses and surrender." The prelate's mandibles clacked in disbelief. "You are one ship. Even if you bypassed our shield, our orbital batteries will reduce you to—" Morrison held up a hand. "Chen, show them why they're wrong. On the Defiance's dorsal hull, panels slid open. A massive railgun emerged, its magnetic coils humming with charged particles. Targeting lasers painted the shield generator complex, the heart of Zoroth face defense network. Relativistic railgun, Morrison explained, as casually as discussing the weather. Fires a tungsten projectile at Feifei. Your shield's still up, but it won't matter. Kinetic energy this concentrated. ITL punch right through. Shiftol's adjutant was frantically tapping at consoles. Prelate, our scanners, the projectile mass, it's impossible. Morrison leaned closer to the screen. 20 seconds. Across the city, panic erupted. Zorathians scrambled through the streets as the Defiance's railgun powered up, the air around it distorting from the energy buildup. Shiftol's voice shook. You wouldn't. The Federation will annihilate your species for this. Morrison's smile vanished. 10 seconds. A new voice crackled over the comms. Captain Alara Voss of the USN Vanguard, one of the other black ships that had just blinked into existence around Zoroth Fey Admiral, were in position, 6 more ships inside the shield perimeter. Their orbital guns are trying to target us, but we're too close to their cities. They'd be shooting their own people. Good, Morrison said. His eyes never left Fiftol. 5 seconds. The prelate's limbs trembled. The human wasn't bluffing. The railgun's coils glowed white. Hot. Stop! Shiftol screamed. He slammed a fist onto the console. Lower the shield. Deactivate the defense grid. The blue dome flickered. Died. Morrison nodded. Smart choice. He turned to Chen. Stand down the railgun. But keep it warm. Back to Fiftol. Now, let's talk terms. Outside, the rest of the human fleet descended, black wolves circling their prey. In the streets below, Zorathian civilians stared up at the impossible sight, their invincible shield gone, their vaunted defenses useless, and above them all, the Defiance loomed, its hull marked with that terrifying insignia, a wolf's head, fangs bared. Morrison's final words to Shiftol echoed across the planet's comm networks. Surrender or burn. The floating citadel of Federation High Command trembled as alarms shrieked through its crystalline corridors. Grand Marshal Vexler's massive frame cast a shadow across the war room, his bioluminescent stripes pulsing crimson with barely contained fury. Explain this, he roared, slamming 3 clawed fists onto the central holotable. The projection flickered, showing 7 simultaneous battles across as many star systems, each displaying the same impossible scenario. A trembling Phosphorian aide floated closer, her luminous body dimmed with fear. Initial reports confirm it is the humans, Grand Marshal. Their ships are appearing inside our defensive perimeters without triggering early warning systems. That is impossible. Vexlor's dorsal spines flared outward. Our shield technology was perfected over 8 centuries. No species can penetrate. Sir, a Vespidian tactical officer interrupted, his mandibles clicking rapidly. The USN Vanguard just materialized inside the orbital defenses of Krellis Prime. They've disabled the planetary defense grid in under 3 minutes. The holotable updated to show the human warship hovering above Krellis's capital city, its angular black hull, bristling with weapons the Federation databases had no record of. A new feed appeared. Admiral Jake Morrison's grizzled face filled the screen, his scarred lip curling into a smirk. Attention Krellis High Command. This is your one and only warning. Power down all military systems, or we'll demonstrate why we call this a planet cracker. Vexlor watched in horror as the Vanguard's main weapon charged, the barrel glowing with an eerie blue, white energy that made the very air around it distort. They wouldn't dare. The weapon fired. The beam lanced downward, striking not the city, but an uninhabited mountain range 50 kilometers north. The resulting explosion vaporized 3 peaks and left a crater large enough to be visible from orbit. The feed cut to static. By the first hive, whispered the Vespidian officer. Vexlor rounded on his staff. I want every available dreadnought recalled to Zentha. Faye immediately. Deploy the reserve fleets to Grand Marshal. Another aide rushed in, his chitinous plates rattling with panic. Long-range sensors detect multiple QSD signatures approaching the Sentientum trade lanes, at least 30 human vessels. The war room erupted into chaos. Vexilor watched helplessly as more reports flooded in. Human ships appearing at will inside mining colonies, research outposts, even the sacred gardens of the Celestial Ascendancy. Each attack followed the same pattern: appear without warning, demonstrate overwhelming firepower, then vanish before reinforcements could arrive. A senior Arcturan tactician, her stripes pale with shock, accessed the main console. Their technology, it shouldn't exist. The energy requirements alone. Her voice trailed off as she pulled up the sensor logs from Zorath. Faye, these readings, Grand Marshal, they're not just bypassing our shields, they're folding space, time itself. Vexilor's central eye narrowed. Explain. The quantum singularity drive doesn't move through space like our warp engines. It creates temporary micro-singularities, wormholes that allow instantaneous transit between any 2 points. The tactician's manipulator tendrils trembled as she brought up the data. They're not limited by distance or conventional physics. Our entire defensive doctrine is obsolete. A new alert blared across every screen. The massive holographic display at the room's center flickered to life, showing Ambassador Elias Carter standing aboard what appeared to be Earth's lunar command center. Behind him, technicians monitored dozens of feeds showing human fleets in various systems. Members of the Galactic Federation, Carter began, his voice calm but edged with steel. 3 hours ago, you believed humanity to be weak. Now you see the truth. The display shifted to show the USN Atlantica positioned above Zinthar Far, its massive black hole projector humming with barely contained power. This weapon can reduce your capital world to subatomic particles. We could have done so without warning. Instead, we're giving you this opportunity to reconsider our petition for membership. Vexilor's claws dug into the holotable, leaving deep gouges in the reinforced crystal. This is extortion. On screen, Carter didn't even blink. No, Grand Marshal, this is mercy. You have 1 standard hour to convene the Council and grant humanity full membership rights. Fail to do so. The image zoomed in on the Atlantica's weapon, the gravitational distortions around it visibly warping nearby starlight. Well, let's not find out what happens then. The transmission ended. The war room fell deathly silent. Vexilor turned to his aides, his bioluminescence now a sickly yellow-green. Contact the Council, all emergency protocols, and someone get me a direct line to Earth's leadership before these madmen decide to. Another alarm cut him off. The tactical display updated to show 12 new human warships appearing around Zenthar Phi's moon, their weapons systems powering up in perfect synchronization. The Vespidian tactical officer collapsed into his seat, his wings drooping. They're not just testing their technology anymore, he whispered. They're showing us they can strike anywhere, anytime. Our entire civilization is at their mercy. Vexilor stared at the displays, watching as more human ships blinked into existence across Federation space. For the first time in his 3-century military career, the mighty Arcturan warlord felt something alien coursing through his veins. The Lunar Command Center hummed with quiet intensity, its reinforced glass walls offering a panoramic view of Earth hanging in the blackness, like a blue jewel. Ambassador Elias Carter adjusted his tie, the only human in the room not wearing a military uniform. The air smelled of ozone and coffee, the latter clutched in trembling hands by junior officers, monitoring the feeds from a dozen battlefronts. Admiral Morrison's face flickered onto the main display, his image crackling with static from the QSD interference. We've got them by the throat, Elias, just say the word. Elias nodded, turning to Dr. Hayes, who stood at the quantum comm array. We live? Lisa's fingers danced across holographic controls. Every Federation world, every ship, every public screen. They'll hear this in real time. No delays. She swallowed. They'll see what is hovering above Zenthar. A deep breath. Elias stepped into the projection field across the galaxy. Billions of aliens saw a lone human silhouetted against the blue glow of Earth. "You called us weak," Elias began, his voice calm but carrying the weight of continents. The chamber's acoustics made each word resonate like a judge's verdict. "You laughed at our ships, our weapons, our limits." On Zenthar Faye, Grand Marshal Vexlor's command, Citadel erupted into chaos. Bioluminescent stripes flared crimson across his massive frame, as screens showed the USN Atlantica materializing directly above the capital spire. Its main weapon, a monstrous ring of black alloy, began spinning with a low subsonic whine that vibrated through the planet's atmosphere. Elias continued, his image now split, screened with the Atlantica's targeting display. "For decades, the Federation dismissed us, said we lacked strategic value." A pause. The word value dripped with venom. "You were right about one thing. We don't play by your rules." In the Antarctic facility, engineers watched the quantum stabilizers hit face. The black hole projector's containment field pulsed like a dying star. Lisa whispered to a technician, "God help us if this fails." The tech grinned, "God help them if it doesn't." Back on Luna, Elias unclipped a small device from his belt, a relic from the first Federation summit where humanity had been denied. A single button glowed red. "You demanded we prove our worth." His thumb hovered. "Now witness what humanity considers proof." He pressed it. The Atlantica's weapon discharged. Space itself rippled as a pinpoint singularity formed above Zenthar Faye. Federation sensors screamed as gravitational waves distorted reality. Buildings trembled. The planet's rings began spiraling inward. Vexor roared at his tactical officers. "Shields, full power to..." A junior Arcturan collapsed to his knees, all four eyes wide. "Sir, the black hole, it is artificially stabilized." The projection showed the singularity holding perfect position, a sword dangling by a thread. Elias' voice cut through the panic. "This is not an attack. It is a demonstration." The Atlantica's captain appeared on screen, her face all hard angles and cold fury. "We can drop this into your core, or we can talk." Silence across the galaxy. Every species holding their breath. Then, from the Vespidian homeworld, an emergency transmission. The High Chancellor's mandibles clicked rapidly, not in mockery, but terror. "Name your terms." Elias smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "First, you will kneel." The screen cut to a live feed of Earth's armada, thousands of ships blinking into existence around every major Federation world. Railguns charged, plasma lances hummed, and on every hull, the same insignia, a wolf bearing fangs. Morrison's voice crackled over the lunar speakers, rough with triumph. "The galaxy's yours, Ambassador. What now?" Elias turned to face Earth, his reflection superimposed over the cradle of humanity. "Now they learn why we never needed their approval." The singularity above Zenthar. Faye pulsed once, a warning, a promise. The galaxy held its breath. The Vespidian commander struggled against his restraints, his chitinous limbs scraping against the reinforced steel of the interrogation chair. His compound eyes reflected the dim red lighting of the Defiance's brig, darting between Admiral Morrison and the flickering holoscreen, displaying the burning remains of Zorath Fee's shield generator. "You'll pay for this, human," the alien hissed, mandibles clicking in fury. A thin trail of greenish fluid leaked from a wound on his thorax, courtesy of a Marine's rifle butt during capture. "The Federation will glass your pathetic little planet for this insult." Jake Morrison leaned forward, his scarred face inches from the Vespidians. The Admiral's breath smelled of coffee and gunpowder. "No," he said, voice low and rough. "You will." Behind him, the holoscreen flickered again, this time showing the void above Zorath. Faye space itself seemed to ripple, like water disturbed by an unseen hand. Then the first ship appeared. The USN Vanguard materialized in a burst of blue-white energy, its wolf's head insignia glowing against the blackness. Then another, and another, a dozen, 100. Within seconds, the sky was filled with human warships, their quantum drive still crackling with residual energy. The Vespidian's antennae twitched violently. "Impossible," he whispered. "Your kind doesn't have the resources for—" "We don't." Morrison straightened, tapping a command into his wrist display. The holoscreen split, showing identical scenes above a dozen Federation worlds. More human fleets blinked into existence, their railguns humming to life. "See, that is the thing about us weaklings. We've been listening, learning, while you were busy laughing at our chemical rockets. We were reverse, engineering your own tech, improving it." A new voice crackled over the comms. "Ambassador Carter." Broadcasting from Lunar Command. His face appeared on every screen in the galaxy, transmitted via hijacked Federation relays. "Members of the Galactic Federation," Carter began, his tone icy. "You have repeatedly denied humanity a seat at your table. You called us primitive, unworthy." The camera pulled back, revealing the USN Atlantica hovering above Zenthar, Faye, its black hole projector pulsing with dark energy. "Today, we are no longer asking for a seat." On Zorath, Faye, the ground trembled as the Defiance's railgun charged. Jake Morrison didn't bother looking at the weapon's status display. He kept his eyes locked on the Vespidian. "You see, we realized something," Jake said, pulling a small device from his pocket. It was a Federation datapad, outdated by their standards, but state-of-the-art when stolen a decade prior. "Your shields, your warp drives, your weapons?" He crushed the pad in his fist, letting the fragments clatter to the floor. "They're yesterday's tech." The Vespidian recoiled as alarms blared across the ship. On the holoscreen, the Atlantica's weapon reached full power. A swirling vortex of darkness bloomed above Zenthar, distorting the very fabric of space. "Admiral," a comm officer called. "Federation High Command is hailing us. They're surrendering." Morrison didn't smile. He turned to the view screen, where the last remnants of the Federation's emblem flickered and died. In its place, the wolf's head insignia burned bright. "Tell them to kneel," he said. Across the galaxy, human ships powered down their weapons, but didn't retreat. Their message was clear. The rules had changed. The balance of power had shifted, and the Federation's reign was over. The galaxy underestimated Earth. Now it kneels.